This is Truth Be Told.
That not only are there reptilians here,
new evidence of UFO fleets.
We were close to nuclear war.
To help you transform so that you can live your highest truth.
We're not being told just because we're not ready for it.
Radio stations of frequency, vibrational.
I was a homicide detective with LAPD.
UFOs increase. Visitations. Greystone Mansion. It's a landmark here in Los Angeles, but there's so much more to know about this landmark than just its name. Today we're going to dive deep into the mysteries that lie just beneath the reach of the ordinary. We're here to explore the eerie, the unexplained, and the supernatural. And today we're venturing into the opulent and haunting corridors of the Greystone Mansion in Beverly Hills, with two very special guests joining us in studio, Clete Keith and Chris Keith, the authors of the riveting book, Ghost of Greystone, Beverly Hills. This book peels back the layers of paranormal lore that shroud this historical estate, revealing stories of unexplained occurrences, spectacle sightings, and echoes of Hollywood's hidden past. Clete and Chris have spent years compiling first-hand accounts and investigating the phenomenon themselves, standing where history and perhaps something else lives within the walls of one of the California's most famous mansions. So buckle up with me, Tony Sweet, as we tour through the shadowy halls of Greystone. Please welcome to the Truth Be Told studios for the first time, Chris and Clete Keith. And the crowd goes wild. Hey gentlemen, how you doing?
Good, real good.
Well, I am excited because I rarely get people in studio, so this is a treat, a joy, and I couldn't thank you enough for driving in from the East Coast. Just kidding. So you guys are all local, correct?
Yeah.
Born and raised, or
born and raised here in Los Angeles, in Van Nuys, actually. That's where we were born.
I was actually born in Hollywood. That's more important.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Get it right.
Yes.
Well, what I'm excited about is because I not too long ago, well, maybe actually 8 years ago, a friend of mine, they redid their house in Beverly Hills, and so they needed a place to stay. And so one of the places they rented for a year was Marilyn Monroe's house that she died in. And so I got to go into the home, and it did have this kind of a, creepy but exciting feel to it, and, being a part of history as it is. Well, I've never been in Greystone Mansion, and have you both been in Greystone?
Well, Clete worked there for 23 years.
Oh, yeah.
I worked there for about 16 on and off with the film stuff that I was doing, so we would come and go when needed. But
yeah, so I ended up. That was my home base. That was my office. Was
okay.
The
on the property.
Yeah, the south part of the property was where I was based out of that office, the gatehouse, and so I was there every day that I worked. Almost every single day that I worked at Greystone, or worked for the city of Beverly Hills, I was at Greystone. So I'd always be inside the mansion. Somebody would come up. We have to go in there, and it wasn't until like maybe a month into it that I realized something's off here. And that was the very beginning of 22 years of the paranormal, which I wasn't into. I didn't care about the paranormal.
You were not?
No, not at all.
Because I always tell people that I have on the show that many of us that are in the field of paranormal, there's usually an event. When I was a kid, I saw a ghost, I saw UFOs with my family, and most people are like, oh yeah, I had a near-death experience. Yeah. And that's kind of leads us on this track of being involved in this genre. So I find that fascinating, because you even said you're not that into it.
No,
but you're open to it.
I'm very open to it, but I'm more of a skeptic. Clete had a couple incidences when he was young, UFO stuff. Yeah. But he still wasn't. I mean, walking into the mansion or working there, he wasn't like, this is going to happen or this goes on. He had no idea.
Our parents had a great uncle that lived up Northern California, that ended up killing himself with a rifle by the ocean, sitting out there in Cambria. And my parents eventually had to go there and clean the place out and get ready to sell it. And my dad heard some knocks on the front door while he and my mom were in the garage, and went out there. There's nobody there. Heard it again, went out and said, "There's nobody here. Let's get out of here." Right. So he left. So that was my first time. I was like probably 14 or 15. It was the first time I ever heard of anything like, what are you talking about? There's nobody there.
Paranormal or
paranormal
ghost,
stuff.
not even paranormal, just ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had one other incident where I was with a woman hanging out with her in Beverly Hills, oddly enough, at her apartment, and she had a book called Seth Speaks. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, about channeling, this woman who channels. And she started talking about that and saying that she had spirits in her apartment. I went, okay, because I didn't believe in it.
Here we go.
Here we go. And so I said, well, look at the book. The front of the book, it looks like this woman was like almost like drooling. And I said, she looks like she ate some bad shrimp. And she said, don't make fun of the ghost. I said, I'm just saying, if you look at her, and I started saying things, and suddenly the housing around the candle that was on the coffee table exploded.
Oh my God.
Now,
wow.
Those glass housings are made so that they don't explode, right? And it blew up. I grabbed my guitar and I ran out, and I went, what was that about? That was the second thing. And then I ended up working up at Greystone, and then I started hearing things up there from a buddy of mine who worked there as well.
So before we get into the ghosts, the spirits,
Sure.
your research, can you let us know a little bit about Greystone Mansion? Because a lot of people, maybe the younger generation, really don't know much about LA area or Greystone, the mansion itself.
I'll start.
Okay.
Start.
Yeah.
Clete has the history down. He knows. And make that short because it could be an hour and a half. But basically, this is a mansion up in Beverly Hills, and Clete will give you the detail, but I just wanted to add that there are a lot of people that live in Beverly Hills, and they don't even know it's there. It's a city park now, but it's kind of like, I don't know why it's so off the beaten path. I'm not quite sure.
Well, it was built up on a hill.
Yeah.
So that's away from all the normal streets and houses.
Well, give him the elevator pitch of how the house came about and what.
That's impossible. Let me just
for you.
The next 3 hours, I'm going to tell you. Yeah. So what the deal is that Edward L. Doheny came from Wisconsin looking for gold, didn't find gold, ended up hearing about oil. This is really summing up quickly. Ended up at Alvarado and Wilshire, started digging, bought a small plot of land with Charles Canfield. They started digging. They went down, eventually using a eucalyptus tree that they carved like a bit, like a drill bit at the end of it, dropped it down, moved it around, and went down 450 feet. That's 45 stories.
That's
450 feet, hit oil, started bringing up like 7 to 9 barrels a day, and then more and more, got enough to where they went down to Tampico, Mexico, fleeced the Mexicans of their land, and then...
That's what we do as Americans.
Of course we do. And then he eventually hit a 600-foot geyser. That's 60 stories, largest till today. And he became a billionaire overnight. It became the Rockefellers and the Dohenys. And at that time, the Dohenys were producing more oil than the Rockefellers. With that money, shortening this up, with that money.
Well done.
Thank you. He bought 429 acres, which is in Beverly Hills. Of that acreage, he gave his son, Ned, who had a wife, a daughter, and 4 boys, gave them 12.9 acres altogether, and said, here's your wedding gift. And Ned built built the Greystone Mansion on that land.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know the background. I just, I've heard Greystone, for many years. And like I said, I've never been there, but I've heard stories about it.
Yeah. Everybody's heard stories.
But I just didn't know the history of it.
And so it's 46,000 square feet, 55 rooms.
55.
67 altogether, meaning walk-in closets. So there are 67 rooms altogether. It's poured concrete. It was built the architect was Frank Kaufman. He did the LA Times building downtown, the Hollywood Palladium, Hoover Dam. So he was a cement guy. And so with that, he poured cement with rebar and made Greystone. And lined the outside of it with Indiana limestone. And as you know, Tony, that limestone is a conductor of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the Stanley Hotel, where Stephen King wrote The Shining, is built on limestone, and it's way off the charts haunted. Greystone, the mansion, is lined on the outside with limestone and Welsh slate on top, really thick slate. It's like a fortress. And within that fortress and on the grounds, the paranormal is off the charts. Crazy.
It sounds like, let's go back, because with many haunted mansions, homes, land, there's usually some type of event or a portal. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like the limestone may have been, or the stone may have been kind of a energy.
Well, yeah, it certainly
enough to open up a portal to bring in either.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it certainly didn't hurt.
Right.
Right. It does keep that energy within the building.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
He's a skeptic and he's a tough one, so I have to run it past him every once in a while.
Is that okay?
But so just to further that, they start building the mansion. I think it's February 15th, 1927. They start building the mansion. By September of 28, Ned, his wife Lucy, daughter Lucy, and 4 boys move in. September of 1928. February 16th, 1929, like 4 months later, Ned and his male secretary Hugh Plunkett are lying dead inside the mansion.
So how long were they there? They were
Like
only there 4 months.
So it's like it was a murder-suicide. Everybody says that Hugh snapped because of something, that the Teapot Dome scandal, which we don't have to go into if you don't want to. But he snapped, went in, had an argument with Ned and shot Ned, then killed himself. I think it's just the opposite.
Wow.
So did that open a portal?
Could have.
Was there something there on that land that made them do what they did from Indian land? It was Mexican land at one point. Was there something left on that land that caused? And there is a portal. You mentioned a portal. There's a portal within the building.
Oh, see.
Verified by more than one.
Yeah. Peter James. Do you remember that name?
Yeah,
Peter
of
James.
course, yeah.
He showed up one day, and he walked in, and with the crew, but they wouldn't allow cameras then, and they still don't. But walked in, and he looked up in one corner of the second floor landing, said, "Do you know you have a portal?" About 15 years later, Chris Fleming, from who's done a bunch of all these paranormal shows, he and I became friends. He showed up. He walks inside and says, "Do you know you have a portal here?" And he pointed right where Peter James pointed. I said, "That's exactly where Peter James said." He goes, "He was my mentor." I said, "Really?" I go, "Well, you're bang on. That's exactly where he said the portal is."
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so writing a book is, it's a big task. Did you have to get permission to write since you had been part of that facility for so long? And was there any people saying, "I don't think that's a great idea"? Please.
Can I bring my lawyer in?
We really didn't have any restrictions per se.
Here's why. The deal is that I came up with the idea. I went to bed and literally prayed and said, "I don't know what I'm going to do when I leave here. I have 0 skills. Help me." And I woke up at 3 a.m. and with this thought in my head, write the tour that you give, because I would give tours every once in a while.
Right.
Somebody would say, "Hey, will you give the ghost tour?" And I go, "Okay." So I thought, I could write the book. Never written a book before, but I didn't know what was involved with it. And what I kept thinking was, anybody, Tony, you could go to Greystone, go inside or whatever, if you can get inside or walk around, go, I'm going to write a story about this place. It's a public location. So for me, I just thought, look, yes, I did work there. By the time the book's done, I'll be retired. I'll be out of there.
Right.
I don't think it's what I've shown in the book is the truth. And that's how I looked at it. We both talked about this. And I said, look, I'm not trying to make it more than it is. I'm just telling the truth of what I know about spirits. And then I would contact Steve Clark, who was a ranger there, and he would say, hey, and then we got Brennan Knight, and we get all these guys to say, let me tell you my story. And so that's how it happened. And it became 86.
Yeah, well, the way we started it was, like Clete said, we would just have one story would lead to another. He goes, I'm going to write down all the stories. And I went, well, that's a good idea. And then, but we got so many, it ended up being, well, there were 100 interviews, but 86 people that made the book, 86 people with 276 stories. At a certain point, I hired an editor, and he called me up, and we were about halfway through, and he says, if you continue going at the rate you're going, this book's going to be over 700 pages. And I called Clete. I said, Clete, you've got to knock down take 50 stories out.
Yeah.
So he went through and took all 50 stories, about 50, and we narrowed it down to 520 pages. But all these interviews that we did were so remarkable and so fun that what I did is I took all the interviews and I had them transcribed. So I would feed Clete the Word documents, and then because I like spreadsheets, I
very sick man.
I did a huge Excel. So the way I said we've got to organize it somehow. So on the left, I had all the people that we interviewed, 86 columns or rows, and then across the top was each room that they discussed. Like one might have 4 or 5 stories all in different areas. So I would just put all the areas of the mansion up on the top.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was really easy. We'd go down, like say it was the entryway, grand entry. Yeah. I just looked down there and here's all the stories, and we'd take all those, and then Clete would kind of look at them and see which ones what order.
Right.
And then we gave them to an editor to trim them down because you couldn't just say question, answer.
Right.
And he trimmed them down.
Okay, so as you can see, he can do an hour on spreadsheets.
Yes.
I mean, that is frightening to me.
That's comes up right after this.
Right. That's part 2.
You didn't know about that, did you, Tony?
He was worried about me going too far into the actual history of the mansion, which I think is very interesting. He'd rather do an hour on spreadsheets. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm done with a spreadsheet. The bottom line is...
Oh, Lord, he's not done.
The bottom line is, we did it basically with the help of an editor who was fabulous. We did it all ourselves and self-published, and we're very proud of it, obviously, because it took 3 years, over 3 years to do it.
Yeah.
And of course, our timing is just so great that we released it during COVID, so we couldn't even have any kind of book. Nothing. We couldn't have you over.
But a lot of people were looking for things to do, but to read, watch. So it might have been.
That's true. But you got to get the word out,
True.
And it was okay. I mean, we had so many people driving up. Like Clete was at the end of his retirement from there, and they were driving up and buying the book from him at Greystone.
Which I don't endorse that. I don't think they should.
And you did it.
And I did it
because you shouldn't have. But
okay.
Anyway. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun to do it. Now it's just we just keep rolling with it. We're just rolling.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, when putting together, who was your first? Because you were there for a long time, and you were there for a long time in and out. Did you experience anything at Greystone?
Well,
were you the first person to contribute to the book, besides writing it?
Well, yeah. No. What happened was when I started working there, about a month into my job, and my job was to work for the city and help put up events, like if it was an art show or what we had called Winter Wonderland, where they'd spray all this snow at Roxbury Park. Help with the logistics to all that, along with I was also a ranger at times if they were doing filming, if a film would come in or large projects would come in, I put on a ranger uniform and I would be there helping the rangers. When I first started, it was like 99 or whatever it was. Steve Clark, who started right around with me, who was one of my best friends, he was the senior ranger there, and somebody said, why don't you go up into the West Courtyard and see how they do filming up here? I said, okay, I've never done that. So I was actually in a film called Cabin Boy, which is absolutely horrible. Do not look up that film, by the way. I'm talking to you out there. Don't look up this film.
Is this an X-rated one?
I wish if it were,
it would be more popular if it was.
Yeah, yeah. And they shot up at Greystone, oddly enough. And I worked it, but I didn't know what Greystone was. So when I started working, I went, oh, Greystone, okay. And I went up to watch the filming. And as I came up there, coming out of from the West Court, coming out of the main grand entry, this guy's running out, swearing, F this place. And Steve Clark, who I barely knew, was there. And I went up to him and I said, what was that about? And he goes, well, something happened. And what had happened was, it was one of his first assignments. They were shooting a commercial, a Sprite commercial, and they were horrible. It's now an historic site. But back then, it wasn't listed as such. And if it was, nobody cared. So they would take things and throw it down the marble floor, drill into the wood.
Terrible.
Horrible. And Steve was like, yeah, and Steve didn't know how to stop us. He's brand new. And this guy comes running out. And what had happened was, I think the spirits got so upset with how the house was being dealt with that a guy was upstairs in the second floor room off the landing, and I think it was in Patrick's room, getting all this cable, wrapping and putting in this crate. And as he was doing that, the crate moved across the floor in front of him.
Wow.
And that was it for him. He ran out swearing, and he never came back. He just left. So
this is where Clete and I, the skeptic, comes in. It's like, the ghosts weren't going like, okay, we're fed up, we're done.
See, I disagree with that. I totally disagree with him.
But something did move. Absolutely, that thing moved across. But why they did it?
See?
Haven't you watched Beetlejuice?
Over and over.
There's the answer.
That's true. It has to be true.
Well, listen. It's
Tony's on your side. I'm not liking this at all.
Well, I'm loving this. Okay. And so from that moment, and then Steve Clark told me another point where he locked up the mansion, turned on the alarm, came out, and looked up, and in the servants' wing, a window was left open. He goes, I thought I closed that. So he goes in, takes off the alarm, goes in there, cranks it shut, locks it, walks through the house to make sure he's brand new, make sure he doesn't mess up again, comes out, sets the alarm, walks outside, and the window's
Same
open.
Window's open.
And he went,
and it's one you have to crank. So it's not like it just
the
flew open. Yeah, because of the wind.
You have to unlock and then crank it open. And he just went, I'm not going back in. So and then we talked, and he goes, something's up with this place. And I go, you're kidding? What's going on? Unbeknownst to me, Steve has the gift. He can feel stuff. See, there are so many rangers. There's several there now who are still my buddies who are there that have the gift. Like I was telling Chris a couple days ago that Ranger Juan, say hello to Juan if you go up there for me, would you? She'll love that.
Hi, Ranger Juan.
Ranger Juan has the gift, and he got a hold of me one day and said, come up here, second floor landing. I ran up in there, and he goes, there's something here with me right now. I go, really? And he holds his arm out, and it's all goosebumps. So I put my hand over by his arm. I don't feel a thing, but he's going off. He's like, do you see it? I go, I see it, but I don't feel it. And so I never had that gift, but so many people who work there have had that gift. And so it's torture for them because they know what they're in for when they go inside that house or work on the grounds as well. The grounds have it too.
So you said 87 people that you did interviews on?
86 that made the book.
Yeah.
So 86, but you did more, sounds like.
Yeah.
So of all the people that you interviewed, how many of those were actually kind of talking about the same type of spirit?
Oh, that's a good question.
It sounds like there could be multiple different, spirits in that home. So was there people talking about a woman, a man, a child?
Yeah.
There were, I'll let you get into this, but there were a lot of similar stories, whether visually the same, wearing the same things from different people from Sweden, people, all. That's what we loved about it. All of a sudden, this woman's talking about something that one of the rangers has seen several times.
Yeah. Like, I gave so many tours. Some I was asked to do. Others I would see. Like there was a family from Australia that I saw on and said, "How you doing?" I was getting ready to leave, and they said, "Oh, great." And it's just, well, we always wanted to come to Greystone. It was going to be the greatest.
Is that
thing.
the Australian accent?
That's my accent. Is that right? See?
I apologize,
Oh,
Tony.
I thought that was from Atlanta. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it just sounds Australian.
Tony, you got to do that to me. So he talked about There Will Be Blood because that was shot there. The bowling alley scene is at Greystone. So he goes, we always wanted to see that. And I go, well, come on, let's go. He goes, what? And he and his daughter, his son, his wife, and him. I took him down, brought him inside, showed him. They were so overwhelmed, just loved it. I said, well, we're not done. And I ended up giving him a 2-hour tour of the whole house. So I would do that a lot. If time presented itself, if I wasn't working and there was a little downtime and I met some people. But through that, even on some of the tours that I gave, one guy was jumped. Literally.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know it. They never said anything to me. It was a year later I found out he was jumped and some crazy things happened after he was jumped.
And we said jumped. What is that?
A spirit went inside him and went home with him.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, wasn't attachment is like they'll attach themselves and go with you, which was another off the chart story. But this one, this specific spirit went inside this guy Ben, and went home with him, and things started happening. So, but my point to this is people have been scratched, hair pulled, all these things on my tour, and nobody ever told me what was going on.
And Clete would always preface it when he would start saying, if anything happens, well, if you're uncomfortable, but if anything should happen, let me know immediately. They were so freaked out and afraid to say anything. He never found out until they were outside the mansion or a week later. Or
one woman, Krisa, from
Sweden, right?
It wasn't Sweden.
Norway?
It was Norway. Awesome. She and her friend, Tanya. And she had the gift. I didn't know that. And things were happening to her, and she's not saying anything until we went up in the upstairs, the second floor landing, and we're walking. And I'm ahead of her, and she, I guess, looked in one of the rooms, and she goes, "Time to leave now." And I went, you went, I
that
got
was
to
actually
go.
pretty good.
And I went,
don't encourage it.
And then Tanya was, I don't want to leave. I want to see. I said, no, let's go. Let's go. I walked out. She was shaking. She had seen a little girl look around a corner at her. And so you're talking about spirits. Are all the spirits? There is a little girl in the house.
Many people have seen this little girl.
Now, do we know possibly who this little girl was?
So we tried looking her up. We went even downtown trying to find her down at
in the
records.
You would page huge books,
right?
And you'd go page by page to see. It was all handwritten. We were trying to isolate to see if we could find this little girl.
And so,
from the mansion,
so what happened was, I'd heard stories. But I went into one day, I was in uniform, and they were doing a scout, which is filming crew there, going over everything in the mansion to know what they can and can't do. And this one woman looked at me, and I thought, oh, God, something happened to her. So I wanted to get out of there because I didn't want to deal with it. And I start to leave. She goes, excuse me. I go, yeah. What is it? And she comes over away from the crew and says, is this place, you know?
You know.
And I said, no, I don't know, because I want them to tell me. I don't want to lead them. And I said, no, I don't know. And she said, is it haunted? And I said, why do you ask? And she said, ever since I was a little girl, I could see, hear, feel, sense spirits. And when I turned 15, it became too much for me. So I shut it down. But I walked in here today.
It kind of reactivated.
And I'm with the crew, and I look over, and this little girl is running at me, saying, my name is Emily. It's Emily. My name is Emily. And she's just looking at her. The crew's not reacting. She's like, oh, my God, it's happening again. And so she walked around a corner and said, okay, your name's Emily. Don't do this to me. Stop it. Don't do this. Stay away from me. So she said, so my question to you is this place haunted? And I said, yes. Did a little girl die here? And I said, yes. Was her name Emily? I said, we don't know. It's Emily. And ever since then, Now we had a name to this little girl that has been seen, and she's been seen probably 6 times jumping off a roof.
Oh.
Kids twice saw her leap off this roof into
Kids
the
in a
courtyard.
camp.
Yeah, in the
Oh,
camp.
That was
really?
Yeah.
little kids, yeah, and they saw that.
And she was seen by Ranger Chan, who's still up there. Hello, Chan. Who's still up there, who came there one morning, the grand entry, and looked in. And there's a little girl standing inside in the card room looking at him.
She wears the polka dots a lot, right?
Yeah, she had a polka dot dress on.
Yeah.
Because I would say, be specific. I want to know, what is she? Well, she had a polka dot dress on. It was either white with black polka dots or black with white. I don't remember. And I said, what about her hair? It was blonde to her shoulders, and she had a band. You know how girls wear the band? Hairband. And he's like, he thought it was real. He thought a little girl was in there. They were shooting. So he got on the radio and said, to Steve, are we shooting anything? And he goes, no. Why? And he goes, I'll let you know. And he goes inside, and as he walks in, she darts behind a wall.
Oh, wow.
And then when he goes behind the wall and looks, she's not there. And he went, what just happened to me?
Because to the Rangers, they're as real as you and Clete are to me.
Yeah.
Right.
And when they go to look and they're gone, it just messes with their minds.
I would say so.
And these are straight. I mean, these are really straight.
Yeah.
Responsible people.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful.
And there's been a little boy scene as well, running in there. A woman in white, which we think is Mrs. Doheny. She's been seen. Luz Rodriguez saw her several times. Yeah. Whispers in their ears. This one ranger was there closing up at night, shutting off all the lights. He's in Mrs. Doheny's parlor, and he's standing there looking at everything, and he gets in his ear, you missed one.
Oh.
And he's like, he said he went in like this karate stance, like,
I would be.
He was freaked out, and he went, okay, no, that didn't happen. He talked to himself like, okay, I'm good. I'm just going to leave. He starts to leave, starts to walk out, looks over, and there's a light that's left on in the daughter's
He's like, I don't want to go.
parlor.
He's like, I
And
don't
he
want
goes,
to go.
oh my, he shuts it off and runs out and gets out. So there are a bunch of different spirits, and there is a demon.
Oh.
There's a
all
demon
right, you
in
just
that building.
opened up that can of worms there. So,
And that was called a demon by Chris Fleming when
Well,
he came in.
this is one of the questions. We kind of touched on it. L.M. Hoff said, has anyone done a full paranormal investigation of Greystone, like ghost hunters or something like that? So we talked about a few, psychics that came in, but have you had people that, stayed the night or, long period of time of doing investigations of this?
Okay, 2 things. One is the city didn't want it.
I was curious about how.
Yeah, they wouldn't
So,
allow
Ghost
Yeah.
hunters,
certainly overnight.
I think Ghost Adventures. What's the one with the Jack Osborne? He had
Oh
one.
yeah, I
Long
can't
time ago.
remember. Yeah.
They would just turn those phone calls to me, and I wanted Dead Files to come in because I wanted Amy Allen to come in and give us the truth of what took place that night on February 16th. I got a hold of Dead Files myself.
That'd be cool.
They got back to me and said, I said, listen, I don't want to tell you where this is. I just want to know if you're open to coming into a mansion in Beverly Hills. And it's extremely haunted. They said, is it Greystone? I said, yes. Because they knew.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, they knew. So then I contacted my director of the division in which I was serving, and he said, hell no. Because Patrick, one of the original sons, was still alive. So he didn't want anything to do with that. And quite frankly, the city still, and back then, told us, you're not to talk about the murders. You're not to talk about
Really?
ghosts. Yeah, they don't want, because they want it to be a place where you get married.
They have a lot of weddings there.
A lot of events inside.
They're booked up a year in advance.
Yeah,
it's a nice, beautiful facility.
It's a beautiful place. But so their whole thing was, we don't want to get into the ghost part of this. Well,
I mean, it's pretty popular.
It's-
So.
Well, everybody that goes up there, even the wedding people.
yeah, like I said,
I mean, that would, to me, I'd be like, I want to get married at a place that possibly
yeah.
They ask, don't they?
I did have that because that was my last 2 years there. I was delegated to talk to wedding guests that were coming up and
Right.
letting them know. And some of them would say, is this place haunted? And I go, I was not supposed to talk about it. And I go, why do you want to know? Because we really dig it. We want to get married here, but it's haunted. I said, okay, if I tell you, then you can't say anything that I told you, because I'll say you lied. And they're like, okay. I go, yeah, this place is haunted. They go, we want to get married here. So there was that aspect, and other people that you knew not to mention. That's not what they were there for. They're, it's a very special day, and they don't want. So regardless, it's still like that, Tony. It hasn't changed. It's still where they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But you'd mentioned before about the book and everything. The city manager at that time, right before I got out of the city manager, he and this other guy, Charlie Ackerman,
who just passed away this week.
Oh wow!
He's in the book and the podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Love you, Charlie. So anyway, Charlie got a hold of me and said, "Hey." He remembered talking about going into the basement and things that happened to him down there. And this guy, George Chavez, who was the city manager now, was with Charlie and saw these pair of Levi's walking inside the basement. So I knew that in interviewing George that he would be in the book, and he said he'd be fine with that. So if I got the city manager to sign off, then that would help. And then other people said, it's okay. It's not, nobody's going to come after you, whatever. And so we went with that and just did the book anyway.
Good for you. And
yeah.
I think it's great. I think it's great to bring these stories to the public, because 30 years ago, 25 years ago, people did look at you a little nutty if you said I saw a ghost, UFO, whatever. But now I think it's the age of giving people permission to really accept what they've seen.
I think so. Yeah. This book has raised my awareness of it, because
I'm going to ask about your skepticism.
I was always a little closed off to it, but with this book, there were so many incidences from different people about the same subject. Mm-hmm. It's hard to go, well, it's a coincidence. At a certain point, it was not a coincidence. Right. There was something going on. Yeah. And I know, because like I said, I'd worked on and off there for 16 years. A lot of the people that we interviewed, the rangers and all, I've known these people. Mm-hmm. So I know they're not wacky people. And they were really, and a lot of them didn't even want to talk about it, because they didn't, that's not their thing. They don't want it to happen to them. And Clete would always draw it out of him, because that's what he does. He's a very evil person.
Spreadsheets.
Don't look at his eyes. Don't look at his eyes.
But he would get these stories, and I when I was having them transcribed, and I would look at some or listen to some, I'm blown away. You could hear. I guess it's like when you see a podcaster, you could tell who's kind of being real, who's BSing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And these guys are, they're real, and that's why on our podcast, we got the idea to use the original recordings of their interviews. So we air those during...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I thought that would be fun. You can hear them, how serious they are.
Because what I would try to do is, if they would say yes to talking to me, then I would bring them to Greystone, to the area in which they had their encounter.
Oh, my God.
Because then
it'd trip them out.
It would highlight their...
But they would remember
their anxiety.
Much more.
Yeah, it would bring out their thoughts again. Because one guy said, it's been 13 years. I go, let's just go in.
Yeah, see, evil.
Yeah. And
you traumatize these people.
Instigator.
For a book.
Yeah. He forced me to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could tell.
You can tell they're brothers.
But there is a demon in the home that Chris Fleming told me. And one night I happened to leave my recorder. I left my recorder in there, Tony, probably hundreds of times overnight. And I have so many recordings of sounds and voices and things. It's crazy. And so I left it in there one night and went home, put my headphones on and was reading. I just listened in real time. And all of a sudden, on this one specific night, the alarm was broken in the mansion. So it would go beep-doop, 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 beep-doop. That would go all night. An owl was hooting outside. Helicopters come over because that's where they take off and they go over Greystone to wherever they're going to be going. But through it all, you can hear, This horrifying scream.
It is unbelievably weird.
And what episode is that on? No. You know, I don't even know. We put it on one of the episodes. I kept it. We put it on one of the episodes so you can actually hear. It's a little girl, which I hope wasn't Emily, but I'm guessing it might have been. And this demon, because Chris Fleming heard it and said, "That's the demon I'm talking about." He goes from the attic down into the basement, and it's horrifying. And we got it. It was like an 8-minute clip, and then it stops. No more screaming or yelling, but it gives you.
What time was it?
Do you know when it was?
Was it close to 3? That's
no,
the
it wasn't
witching.
actually.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't. It was earlier than that. It was nighttime after because I left my. But I think it actually was like 9:30 to 10,
which is bizarre.
But remember, everybody's gone. It's a huge house. All the lights are off.
Right.
There's nobody on the property. It's 18 acres. There's nobody on the property, so they know that. Spirits know who's in there and who's not in there.
Here we go.
Yeah, right.
Do you have time for another story?
I do.
Tell them about Steve going down in the basement then.
So we had a woman that came in, Mary Nichols. Hello, Mary, who is an incredible photographer. So she was taking photos of a design show that we did. So she would come into each room and take photos that the designer had set up. And at the end of the night, it's like 9 o'clock, 9:30. Steve said, "Well, I'm going to go down to the basement and I'm going to shut off all the power." It was on this huge.
It was before they redid the electrical in the mansion, so they were physical levers that you'd have.
Oh,
to turn.
wow!
Those,
the old school,
from the 1920s,
30s.
20s, right?
20s, 30s.
So Steve says, "I'll be back." He goes down. He goes down the stairwell. He goes down to the basement, to the door at the basement, and he starts to get his keys. And there's a gate there, and the gate was put in the 20s because they had workers there that they would lock in the basement. If you can think about doing that today,
I've thought about doing that to him.
Lock in the basement so they didn't get upstairs to the maids.
So it was that was a men's wing down there. The women were upstairs, and they would lock them in at night. I can't even imagine if there was a fire or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Men are horrible, from what I understand. So they would keep them from going upstairs. And so Steve goes down. He opens the door. There's the gate. He starts to get his keys because it's locked. There's a lock on it, physical lock still. He starts for his keys, and he hears out of the basement this growl scream that he said it wasn't human. I don't know what it was. It was like just this horrible guttural scream that froze him. Now, I took him down to that stairwell to let him feel it again, and boy, did he. And he was saying, I don't know why I didn't soil myself. It scared him so much that he just froze. And there's a guy named Rob Ledarsky, who's a very good friend of ours. He's a great paranormal investigator. And Rob said, if anything ever happens to you guys, stop, test it again to make sure it's paranormal. It may not be paranormal. So Steve stood there in the dark, having heard this horrible scream that's in that clip that I have. And he says, if there's anybody down here, do that again. And then he hears louder, and he just ran upstairs. Now, Mary's taking photos with just a guy who's holding the lights. Right. And he goes, hey, it comes up to Mary, and she goes, oh my God, were you just down? You were just downstairs, right? You just came downstairs. And she's like, Steve, I don't know what you're talking about. Were you downstairs? No, we've been shooting. Well, there's somebody down. I hope it's human, I think he said.
Yeah.
I hope it's human. And so he got Mary and the guy out.
Didn't he say get out of the house?
Yeah, we got to get out of the house. So I asked Steve, before we did the podcast, I said, hey, just don't hate me for this, but did you get them out of the house first, or did you get out of the house first? And he goes, I left first. And I go, oh my God, how could you do that? They all got out, and it took him about a year before he would go back down there by himself to shut things off.
And then you played him that recording.
We called the screams and wails, and he heard that. He goes, shut that off. And I shut off. He goes, That's what I heard that night. That's the scream I heard that night. So I played that for Chris Fleming.
I was going to ask what the psychic would have
said. And he said, that demon goes from the attic down in the basement. Can we go up in the attic? I said, okay. Steve Clark was there with me. We went up into the attic. There are catwalks that you can go on that go all throughout the roof of this building. And Chris Fleming went in there and goes, do you feel that? To this other woman's psychic, do you feel that? She goes, I do. He goes, it's gone. It's gone. What's in that? And he points this other door. I said, it's just another door to a catwalk. He goes, can we go in there? I go, okay. At this point, I'm like, I don't feel anything. Nothing's happened. I'm fine. I walk with him. We open the door. He steps in and stops and goes, you've got a demon in here. And I never say that. I said, okay. Because I'm going like, but nothing's happened, so it's not real. So he gets his recorder out and walks in, and he's on the recorder and says, I know that you're in here. Not only do I know that you're in here, I know that you're the one who's scaring all the good spirits here. Guess what? You don't scare me. What do you think of that? Plays it back. And you hear, can you swear on this show?
Yeah.
You hear, asshole.
Wow.
Clear. I have that clip, clear as day. And he goes, did you hear that? I go, yeah. Plays again, asshole. I go, all right, let's get. Now it freaked me out. The girl gets on her, turns on her recorder, and says, the girl psychic says, well, then you must take Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I go, no, don't do that.
Don't tease and
don't tease.
And so she plays it back and it goes, fuck. And I went, we're done. I said, listen, I took them and I escorted them out of the building, and I just sat there going like, how do I deal with this, man?
Now,
I had worked there.
If it wasn't Clete, I would say I wouldn't buy it. I would not buy it at all. But I know him so well, and we've done so many things.
But you heard the asshole.
I did.
But I have a little snip of it.
It blows my mind. And I've heard, obviously, screams and wails and all that stuff. And because he comes home with the recorders. It's not being given to anybody. There's no sneaking.
Right.
They're digital. They're not even analog recorders. So it's not something that happened to be all the stuff that people say. But it's legit,
man. It's legit. It really is legit. And people constantly. I'm still being asked, can you take me in? I can't. I don't work there anymore. I don't work for the city. But people, Ranger Juan contacted me a week and a half ago and said, it's happening again. And I text him back, like, what's going on? He goes, I'm in the card room, which is when you walk in. Remember I said that Chan saw the little girl straight ahead? It's the card room straight ahead. He goes, there's a wedding here tonight. It was raining, so they put the wedding inside, which isn't a good idea. Put the wedding inside, and which causes a lot of commotion inside, and the spirits know there's nobody.
There's a wedding going on, and they crash it. See, this is
the wedding crasher.
This guy's an idiot, or is he over there? I don't know. One of the ways. There he is. Whatever. Anyway, he said a mist started to form in front of his face, and he's like, "What is that?" And he went, tried to see if it was his breath. It wasn't, and it started to form again, and he just got out of there.
Did somebody say it was ectoplasm?
Well, that's what that is. It's ectoplasm. It's a spirit using its energy to try to form into a body.
Oh.
And it's like a mist, which happened one time with another tour that we did. Not a tour, but with an investigation. You asked about investigations. Nobody's ever done an investigation for a series or whatever. I did a lot because I was there.
Right.
And it's like Disneyland for me. I'm going like, I've got this place.
Clete and Ranger Steve would sit in there until 2 o'clock at night, listening to
I
doors slamming.
I stayed overnight one time, but Steve and I met one night after an event, sat at the top of the second floor landing, sitting against the wall, just talking about our day, and boom. And I looked at him, and I said, that's the kitchen. Door down in the kitchen. He goes, yeah. Okay. We keep talking. Bam, it happens again. Steve goes, let's go down to the Grand Hall and sit. I go, okay, we go down to the Grand Hall. Now we can see where it is over there. It's in that room over there. So we're seated there, and boom, it happens again. and then boom, it did it again. I go, I'm done. That was the
See, you go there because you want to hear or experience something,
Right.
and then when it happens, you go, let's get out of here.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't soil yourself.
Oh, I wouldn't go in there.
There's the point.
Skeptic or not, I don't care.
Now I would stay because that was early in the process,
right.
probably 2007 or whatever. Now I would go in and say, let's go in there and take my recorder and
Right,
do the Estes method and all those things. Those are great things.
Wow.
But we just got out.
So the attacks, do you feel it's mostly, well, I can see the pulling of the hair, maybe the little girl, and maybe even the scratching, but do you see the demon attacking or hear of the demon attacking anybody, or is it more of a dark shadow energy? What do they see when it's the demon? Because you've heard it, but has anybody actually seen anything physical of?
Go ahead, and then the shove too.
The shove
Down the stairs. And
Oh yeah.
lots of
Before I started working there was a we thought it was Ranger folklore that this guy and this woman, female ranger, were walking down the second floor landing to the grand entry, and she just flew head over heels.
Wow.
And landed and could have killed her. And he was horrified, and she went and quit, and it was something shoved her head over heels down those stairs. Now that was before I started working. So that was before '99. I think it was in the '80s.
And you guys thought it was just a story.
Well, that's somebody just said. And then this guy shows up one day with his kids. I can't say his name. I wanted to interview him for the book, but he wouldn't let me. And he said, I'm the one who was with the girl who was shoved down the stairs. He's now a DA in another city. And so he doesn't want to be, aligned with paranormal. But there was a time.
Neither do I, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. I'm trying to.
Why
By the way,
why are
is
you
it too
sitting
late?
here? Why are you sitting here? So there was a time where a woman named Andrea, who would clean city facilities with Vilma, this other woman, and Elva. And Elva would sit out in her car before she had to do her daily job of going in and cleaning the mansion. And Elva would have rosary beads, and she would pray for 20 minutes before she went inside the mansion. She was horrified.
Poor thing.
So she comes in one day. It's Elva, Andrea, and Velma. They go up to the second floor servants' wing, which is really active. Velma and Andrea are in one room right next to Elva. Elva walks into this one room. She starts to clean, and she freezes. And she goes, don't leave me. Don't leave me. She's yelling to Velma and Andrea. And they go, we're right next door. No, don't leave me. Don't leave me. So Andrea says, I'll check it. Andrea comes into the room. She walks in the room. And as she walks in, she glances behind the door and there's this black mass with red eyes.
See that?
Staring at Elva. And so she goes, now Andrea had her own demons literally when she was younger, so she knew from all this stuff. She turns Elva and says, okay, we're almost done here. And Andrea starts singing this Mexican religious hymn. Elva joins in. She goes, okay. She turns Elva and walks her out.
Turns her why?
Away so she doesn't see the demon behind the door. And I said, when you walked her out, did you have the nerve to look behind that door? And she said, I did. I said, was it gone? And she said, no. It was still there, red eyes staring. So, and she also saw black shadows on the property, not inside the mansion, on the property.
Right.
So just because you're in the mansion doesn't mean if you're outside of that mansion, you're safe. There were spirits all over that place. Still are, obviously. Just because I'm gone doesn't mean they leave. They're there. So
Well, I always found it funny when a lot of psychics they go, oh, just tell the spirits to go to the light. Apparently that doesn't work because a lot of these spirits stay even after they tell people to go.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like demons, there has to be either again a portal, which that sounds like there is, or like some Indian burial grounds or something of significance with the grounds itself.
I think it's a combination. up there at that property. Tell them about the one with the horse.
Yeah. Well, there was a woman who was doing
That sounds
security.
like a joke.
Yeah. There was a horse, a mansion, a horse, and a...
They were shooting a series up there at one point, and this woman, Hispanic woman, was down by what we call the 905 gate, which is on Loma Vista, and that was her position for the night, to make sure nobody came inside that gate, because they have filming equipment all over the grounds. So she was there, and it's near 11 o'clock, and I got this through an interpreter. Because she only spoke Spanish, and she had gone to one of the gardeners the next day and said, do you guys have rangers on horses? And he's like, no, why? She goes, I was just wondering. So through this interpreter, we find out that she's waiting at the gate, and she hears
horse hooves,
and she's looking up the road, and coming around this corner is this guy in a big sombrero on this beautiful white with brown patch horse, chaps. I mean, very specific as to what she's seeing. And it's coming down the hill toward her.
Wow.
Now, she's got a flashlight, and she's looking at it, and I said, what was she feeling? She was just like enthralled with it, like, what is going on here? And it stops halfway down the hill, and now she can't see his eyes because it's a sombrero. And she's going like, what is going on here? And he goes and takes the horse off the road and down the hill that's right there, back toward, in essence, the stable area way at the bottom of the property. She runs up. She has her flashlight. She turns her flashlight on, runs up to the hill. When she puts the flashlight on the horse and the guy, it goes out.
Oh, wow.
It goes around the corner where she can't see him. Flashlight comes on. And it goes away. So she was freaked out, obviously, by that. I mean, so she saw a horse.
That's why I think it's something has to do with either Native American
or Mexican land.
Or Mexican.
Yeah.
It is Mexican land.
Yeah.
I mean, because what was there before? Was there houses there before, or is it all just
it was
land?
just land.
It was at 430 acres.
Yeah.
That was Truesdale Estates, is that right?
Well,
and then
it was 429 acres that Edward L. purchased.
Right.
Eventually, he sold off the majority of it to Truesdale, which became Truesdale Estates. But it's still, that land is about 18 acres now still of Greystone. That's still there. But there was nothing there before they built.
Right.
So it was just open land.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's a lot of Native American tribes that were here. And, I mean, that would be interesting to maybe contact them. I mean, they may not know if there's burial grounds or, you know, even any type of structures that were there, but still, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like something's going on up there because there's just too many people seeing stuff all the time, constantly.
Yeah.
In this one little concentrated area, something's going on there.
Murder-suicide, right? 1929.
Right.
2 of the maids killed themselves. One slit her wrist, the other hung herself inside the mansion.
That might have been that demon.
The little girl jumped or fell, and she showed that to the little kids who were there at a camp twice. And then there was a guy in 2003, which I was working there, who went to the Willow Pond, which is right off by the firehouse there, and shot himself in the head. Oh my God. And killed himself.
There's a lot of death on that property.
Yeah, a lot of sadness.
Yeah. So there are spirits there. And by the way, you asked a question about whether they want to leave or not. I went into the room where this woman hung herself, which became our break room, by the way, just so you know. And I went in there one morning by myself with my phone and said, I know you're in here, and I just want to know why you're still here. Are you here because you're afraid to find out what's on the other side when you go? Played it back. Yes. So this was a Catholic family, that the Doheny's were Catholic.
Right. And
to
killing
suicide's a sin. All these things, I think, play into why some of the spirits are there.
Yeah.
And it's more than just a couple, man. There are a lot. And that portal, it's like a highway to the spirits, man. They come and go every night, in and out.
Well, unfortunately, our time is up. But I do have a question to close us out. I know people can't, go up there and film, and that, they can't stay overnight. But if they want to go up, and these people that are amateur ghost hunters, or have their what do you just have a tape recorder, or do you have the actual equipment for set?
I have all that stuff, but when I was there, it was mostly my recorder at night,
which is even more impressive.
Yeah.
How do people do that? Can they do it without getting in trouble, or do you just kind of sneak it?
well, they can't get inside the house unless there's an event.
Oh, okay.
So if it's a wedding, or if
and some of the tours, the Rangers give tours.
Oh, they do give tours.
Yes.
Okay.
And they can check up the website, Beverly Hills website.
Yeah, BeverlyHills.org.
But it's a city park, so they're open 7 days a week.
So you can
Oh,
do
so
it
you can go on the.
You can walk around the property all over.
I didn't
the
know
place.
that.
and look
Oh, yeah.
inside, look into the windows from the outside into
You
the
could see
murder
all
room.
the rooms that we discuss or whatever. You can see all that stuff very easily.
Yeah.
I did not know you could just walk around
It's free.
the property.
You can go up there and hang out.
Would we have had more time if you didn't talk about spreadsheets?
Oh my God! Nice.
yeah, I thought so. Thank you, Tony. Thanks for your honesty.
I apologize for him.
Thank you.
Well, I thank you both for being here. I definitely would love to have you come back. I mean, we could talk more about
Spreadsheets?
More spreadsheets.
Okay.
And next time,
UFOs.
bring them.
Oh yeah, Clete's got some UFOs.
And I do want to hear about the Bigfoots and UFOs, so that would be awesome. But I really appreciate you. Where do people find you guys? And find your book and all that
well,
good
the book's
stuff?
on Greystone, ghostofgreystone.com. We can find the book. The podcast that we really like is the YouTube. It's Ghosts of Greystone Beverly Hills. Yeah. And that's really fun.
Yeah.
That's easy. And you've done 20 episodes so far?
We did 20.
That's all
we
we're gonna
stopped
do.
at 20.
No more.
I don't know if we're
think
going to do a second season. It's awfully hard
It's a lot of work.
pull that together, as you know. But no, we're proud of the 20.
If you get the book on Amazon, you can get that there, but you can also get the book through us, and we give you like a bookmarker that's the census of that time of Greystone. It's pretty cool. So if you get it through us, and it's free shipping as well, just like Amazon. So
Did you do a book on tape and add a little bit of some of the
we did
clips?
We have the book on book on tape is read,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's it's basically the whole book, but it's just audio, and he does the characters.
Yeah. But the sounds and photos and things are on the YouTube page, which
we show a lot of that.
Yeah, it shows a lot.
Perfect. And YouTube is just the same.
It's the same thing, only it's Clete playing some of the interviews, and then we discuss those, but we also show the pictures of where we are. And
it'll
kinda fun.
lay out the
It's
house
different.
more. And the book has maps in it, so you'll understand where the locations were about which we're speaking.
Oh, I love it.
Pretty
I can't wait to actually just go on property and see it, because I've been here 21 years and I've never been.
Get
on
up
the
there,
property.
man. And you never know, man. You never know what happens up there. People used to come up to me and say, "Hey," and start talking about something that just happened to them on the grounds.
As a kid, I saw a ghost. I used to see an old man in my home, in my house that I grew up in.
Really?
My family would hear things, but I saw. But as an adult, I get the goosebumps, but I don't see things anymore. So
you should go up there.
Yeah.
You should go up there, just kind of walk around.
Yeah.
And we did get you a book, didn't we?
I didn't get a book. I have it on tape that I did not get a book. I'm just kidding. But thank you. I'd love to read it. I'd love to read it.
Just use the map. And then if you get a feeling, look at where you are in relationship to the,
that's a good idea.
Rooms in there. That'll be kind of cool. I think it'd be fun.
When you saw the ghost, how old were you?
Oh, I was 7.
Yeah,
8.
because you're still right in that area where you can still connect.
Yeah, and we thought it was probably the guy. He was in the banker. He owned a bank in town, and he built the house. And he was calm and very, no problems.
I just didn't want to leave.
Just probably loved his house.
Yeah.
It was a pretty house, and it was, the wood floors and the ceilings and all that stuff. It was pretty. So, but he just.
Then you might get a reaction there.
Yeah.
It's pretty common.
As long as the demon doesn't come out, I'll be.
No, you're probably good,
I can't
right?
guarantee that.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it,
Oh,
and thank you everybody for tuning in and joining in the chat room. There's lots of people commenting and saying the demon is salty and all that good stuff. So thank you for the humor. I know. I love that. Yeah, the brotherly love. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in every Friday. And don't forget, on Mondays, you could see Robert Hensley. He does the Minuteman Report at 3 o'clock. And then you can tune in on Wednesdays to see Bonnie Burkert Truth Be Told Transformation, more the spiritual side, more, the yogas and the meditation and stuff that my ADD will not let me do. So, but until next time, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Take care. Bye. This has been another episode of Truth Be Told. Thank you so much for watching. Recorded live at UBN Go Studios in Burbank, California. Join us on social media. Facebook, Truth Be Told Radio. Instagram, Truth Be Told Paranormal. Go to Truth Be Told Worldwide for more information on upcoming shows.